Okay. I declare a quorum. I'm going to call the City of Groton Mayor and Council meeting for Monday, August 20th, 2018 to order. Clerk Patrick, please call the roll.
Present are Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Lawrence Garish, Councilors Jill Rusk, Jamal Beckford, Stephen Sheffield, Guinevere Depot, Rashad Carter, Finance Director Ron Newhouse, Clerk Deborah Patrick.
Thank you. Please stand and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognition, awards, and memorials. Do we have any? Councilor Russ.
I just want to wish Mr. Mayor a very happy birthday, belated a little, but happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Shall we sing to you?
No, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Receipt of citizens' petitions, comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak? Ma'am, would you like to speak? Please approach the, let me read this. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens. To address the council, please sign the sheet on the table. You don't need to do that. When you're recognized by the mayor, please approach the podium. Clearly state your name and address. Speak into the microphone. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentations should be related to matters pertinent to the City of Groton. City councilors will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and can respond during the response to citizens' petitions portion of the meeting. This is not intended to be a debate. It will be the citizens will speak. If you have any questions, then we'll get those clarified, and then the speakers will finish, and then when they're done, then it'll be response to citizens' petitions. And with that, I turn the microphone and the floor over to you, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Julie Hosford. I live at 303 Plant Street in Groton City. I'm just here to voice my hardship with the new water and sewer tax bill. I live alone. I'm on Social Security disability. I'm on a very limited income, and this is killing me. I'm an avid gardener. I grow food, and now it's costing more to grow the food than to plant it with the water tax and the sewer tax to go out when the water's going on the garden, not out the sewer. So I know there's been other people raising the same issue, and I'm just hoping that we can resolve it somewhat. I just saw on the news tonight that Connecticut waters were going up like $2 a month, and I'm like, well, that I could live with. But this is a lot. I mean, I've resorted to trying to really limit my water, but it's tough. That's it. That's all I came for.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. Well, first of all, were there any clarifications needed by the council? Okay. We'll move to the next, which is response to citizens' petitions, comments. Council? Councilor Russ?
Thank you for coming. We are hearing you, and we definitely, I know this was something that we definitely talked about ahead of time, concerns about people on limited incomes. We talked about doing a winter rate average, and according to GU, that was actually more expensive for people, but I think that might be something, again, that we need to look at. We have committed to reviewing this in 6 months to see whether or not we need to tweak this. So we definitely all appreciate you coming in and giving us comments, because that's the only way we're going to know how things need to change. So thank you for coming, and we are hearing you. Thank you.
Anyone else, Councilor Depot?
Well, I just wanted to say too, I know for me, I only have 2 people in my household, and my bill compared to the taxes I was paying on my house is going down. So again, it doesn't help people who rent necessarily, but I would encourage people, as I have in the past, to check that difference, because in my household that I live in, I am benefiting because I only have 2 people, and our tax bill was higher than our fees are estimated to be. Even looking at, I just got, I think, the second bill, and even with that number, our taxes we were paying, the sewer portion, were much higher than I'm paying in water fees, in sewer fees rather. So I would just encourage people to check that number, because your taxes would have gone up. My taxes would have gone up more than my fees are costing me right now, my sewer fees.
Councilor Sheffield?
Yeah, I guess the clarification would be, the people that have come forward in the past have mentioned about having it be a tax, or is it a user fee? We need to get that clarification that it is a user fee and not a tax that affects the mill rate that you pay. And I think we might need to give clarification to our constituents that that they feel they're being taxed extra, but that's not actually what it is. It is actually using the water that, for those things that you need, to use it for.
Sure.
I have heard from people that I've talked to that Norwich has the same process of a user fee with their water and sewer. So we've been, I guess, catching up to other municipalities as far as the sewer usage. So it's something new that our residents have to get used to. But I think we want to make sure that we clarify that it's not a tax on the citizens. You're paying for what you use. So I think if I'm correct, then I think we want to make sure we clarify.
Your terminology is correct, but I'll have a comment in support of the speaker in just a moment. Councilor Carter?
Well, I was going to say the same thing as far as the tax. I think they've added a new fee, even for before when we had several residents come the last time, they mentioned tax and they emphasized tax. And even after the meeting outside, they mentioned tax, and we didn't add another tax, so it's just, I guess, the terminology. And what Councilor Depot said, and going into this, right off the bat, I immediately, thought about the added fee for the people who rent, and I think that is the people who we need to look out for. Well, look out for everybody, but the actual renters, I mean, it's an actual new fee for the renters, essentially. For homeowners, like Councilor Depot said, that I would think that if you just compare your taxes to the new bill that we're getting, you will see that it's not off. And in many cases, probably most cases, it's going to be better. But for renters, there's no way around it. There's no way around it. It's a new fee, But that's something that I guess you have to look at your landlord or whoever you rent from and maybe set something up that way where you can work it out.
And I'm going to address, I think I'm going to address your comment in just a minute. Is there anyone else? Councilor
I have one more comment. Like Councilor Rusk had said, we're going to take a look at this in 6 months, because right now we switched over at the height of the summer. So folks are washing their cars, they're filling their pools, they're watering their gardens. These may not be the things that you're doing come October, November, December, and into winter. So it's not as simple as just taking the number that you see right now and multiplying it by 12. Your water, if you're doing these things, these activities, there's a pretty good chance that you won't be doing them come winter time, and you're going to see a decrease. And so it's not a simple set of arithmetic. You got to take a look at it and assess. But I just want to add that in there.
Councilor Russ?
The only other thing I'd like to add is that I would encourage you to call GU and talk to their customer service about an outside meter.
So that's about $800
support it, okay. All right.
Divide that out by 12 members.
Is there anyone else? Okay, couple things. People get wrapped around the issue of tax versus a fee. A tax is a general amount that is for example in the city we have our mill rate of 4.58, and that is a tax, and that covers a broad base of things. The amount of money that we are charging for the sewer is a fee for a specific use. So typically fees are for specific use items and taxes are for broad base items. Now, if you're having difficulty paying for something, you really don't care if it's called a fee or if it's called a tax, right? I mean, that's something that I think is important for us to understand, and it's important for the residents to understand. Our commitment here is this. Because this is a new process, the pollution abatement facility has been operating for years and years and years and years, but it was always under the tax system. All we've done is we've moved the accounting to a fee-based system that is managed by the utility. So Kevin Sini and his 5 guys that are operating the pollution abatement facility have not changed. They're the same guys. They come to work in the same clothes, the same time, every day that they did in June, May, and April and before. The accounting is different because it's underneath the utility. Now, one thing that was added, and this goes partially to the increase of the fee, is that one of the reasons that we pulled the sewer out of the municipal bill, out of the general fund to a revenue account is so that we could work on projects. We were able to work on some projects before, but they were the smaller projects, and they were always limited because we didn't want to raise taxes. There was always a concern about raising taxes versus getting the work done, and things would get pushed. One of the things that we have is there's a buffer in there, if you will, of $2 million. And that's to fund that $2 million to work on projects. One of the things, we're going to be looking at this every month. The utilities director is briefing the Groton Utilities Commission, and he's briefing the council at the Committee of the Wholes, which is next Monday. And he will talk about not only electric and water, but he will talk about sewer and talk about sewer revenues and talk about where we are. And we're going to talk about projects and things like that. I've also committed to, at about the 6-month point, November, December timeframe, looking at this hard to see if we need to tweak this. And maybe the answer is, instead of a $2 million, we go to a $1 million or maybe $500,000. I don't know the answer, but we as the council and as the utility commission and as the mayor listen to the residents that have come out, and we're going to do what we can to try to look at fees and see if we can lower fees. Okay? The fees are not going to go away because that is the amount of money that it costs to process the gray water, brown water coming from your house. As Councilor Russ said, we are going to look at other billing methods, whether it is a winter averaging, a flat fee, whether it is a staggered fee, meaning a flat fee up to a certain amount, and then, or an escalated fee rather, a flat fee up to a certain amount, and then so many cents per cubic foot that, we have also in the past looked at residential fees versus commercial fees versus industrial fees. Some of the industrial customers have water meters installed to account for the water that is being used that does not go back through the sewer system. So that water, or that amount, is deducted, or that sewer, you still pay for the water, but you don't pay sewer on that water that goes through that meter. We've offered the same thing to the homeowners. I recognize that there is a price or a cost to that. The number that I recommend that you call is 860-446-4000. And that is the customer service number. And if you ask for Tina Daniels is the general manager of customer service. She can talk to you, and she may, I don't know that she can or can't, but she may be able to do something with a hardship. I don't know that she can. I will make no promises to you, but I know that we work with people. And we are committed to looking at the fees, and if we can lower the fees, we're going to do that. Because we want to try, this is not intended to make tons of money for the city. It's not intended, or for the utilities. It's not intended to be a cash cow to make huge amounts of money. Any money that is made in sewer has to go back to sewer. Any money that is made in water has to go back to water. So that's where we are.
It's at cost.
Say again?
It's at cost, essentially.
Yes,
Right.
that's correct.
And we are still lower than,
Well, you,
if I'm correct.
you will get briefed on this next week. I received this week. Our cost is $31 a monthly bill typically, and it's based on 400, this graph is based on 400 cubic foot per month. And then it is compared to other cities, and we try to do a straight comparison. One of the challenges with a comparison of cost is this. There's O&M cost, operating and maintenance cost, which is basically what we were doing last year. And then there's all-in costs, which includes capital improvement costs. If you are an all-in cost and spread that about, your rates are higher than if you're just an operating and maintenance cost. So that's one of the challenges in representing this. But there are, and what we've tried to do, I have other places on here like Middletown, Ledyard, Norwich, the town of Groton, Waterford, East Lyme, Jewett City, and we're going to get New London on there. So we'll be talking about that next Monday, and we'll be talking about revenues. Last month was, or this month rather, August, was the first month for revenues. Well, it's the first month for revenues. So are all your revenues going to come in the first month? Of course they don't. Now, there's some misinformation that was out there, and that is the revenues came in less than it takes to operate the unit. That is untrue. Revenues are less than budgeted. Okay, so you have a budget. This is what we expected revenues to be, and then you got the reality of what revenues were. Part of that is because of the deduct meters that were installed by one of the industrial customers. In addition to that, we had $273,000 that is in accounts receivable. So that's money that is going to come into the from customers that have not yet paid. Okay. Some people think that I make too much of a big deal about making payroll. Here's the deal. You got to make payroll. And what I mean by that is you got to make your basic cost for operation and maintenance. That's the operators, that's the maintaining of the system, that's what processes the water, that's what takes takes brown water, gray water, and then gets it through the cycle and then goes into water that can be discharged into the harbor. Anything above that is now used for capital improvements. So when I talk about making payroll, that's why I draw that distinction for the operation and maintenance budget part of that. But you guys will get a full brief on this next week. This is brand new to me. It's still in the draft phase. It's not, I'm not giving you a copy because it's not ready. Because there's some changes that need to be made on this to include people that aren't on there. But you will get a full brief on this next week at the Committee of the Whole, and the Utility Director will brief us all on revenues, and similar to what we brief the Utility Commission. So the Utility Commission will get a brief. Typically the Utility Commission will get the brief first, and then there will be a lag, and then the council will get the brief at the Committee of the Whole, because they meet before you guys. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, all right, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve August 6, 2018 Mayor and Council meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Communication and reports, Councilor Rusk.
Thank you. I attended the Group 2 meeting on Tuesday, August 14th with Councilor Carter and Councilor Sheffield. And I think I'll let Councilor Carter discuss what we're... Okay. We were talking about potentially touring Eastern Point Beach to look at what could potentially, what exists there and what we could potentially do with the building, get some ideas. We had scheduled a meeting to tour it on the 27th, but Carlton can't be there. So
Okay.
we were trying to see if there was potentially another day that we could schedule it for all of us to go on that tour, whoever wants to be there, that Carlton can actually be there.
Okay.
So,
Is staff actively working with you to schedule?
Mary Hill is.
Okay, so you
Yes.
don't need me to get in the middle
No.
of it. Okay, then I'll stay out of the way.
So I was just gonna ask before we responded. Let me flip the page. Sorry. Is there any time potentially later on in that week or the following week that looks good? This is a holiday.
That you can't, if you can't.
Any days
that
that
you
you
can, but you
definitely
can't.
can't work?
The week of the 15th.
And it would just be a tour of the Tyler House and the Z House, just for
So we can just
tour the
look at,
sections that we don't naturally see when we.
Right.
we can just try to look at scheduling it later that week potentially? Does that work for everybody? No?
No,
Okay.
not for that week.
Okay. So we can talk about it after the meeting,
Okay.
and just try to come up with a good date.
Sure, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Councilor Beckman.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Sheffield.
Again, attended the Group 2 meeting. There was no report for finance. That's all.
Okay, Councilor Depot.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Carter.
Other than the Group 2 meeting.
Okay, thank you. And Deputy Mayor Harris.
No report.
Clerk Patrick. And Finance Director Yoss. Okay, I have one thing that I want to talk about. I want to set the record straight. At the last council meeting, in answering one of the citizens' petitions, I made a comment that in the concerts in the park, that was fully funded by Groton Utilities, and that there were no taxpayer dollars incurred other than labor. And Finance Director Yoss reminded me after the meeting that in Mary Hill, the Parks Director's budget, she funds half of that and the utility funds half for the concerts and the setup. And then she also has the labor for setting up the pavilion, setting up the stage, tearing down the stage, and trash. So that, I wanted to correct the record since I stated that the city was not involved in that.
Right. But the point you were making was that it does not come from the water revenues.
That is correct.
Right.
It does
That
not-
was the point that you were getting at in the meeting.
Right.
We also have the police to the overtime for the police.
That's true. And that's right. Any other communications reports? Okay, committee referrals. All right, I have 3. Here they are. A couple of these may catch you off guard. The first one is for community development. It is to review Airbnb and short-term rental requirements in the city of Groton
Airbnb
and short-term rentals.
okay.
Yes, that's our group 2.
That's community development. The second one is for public works, which is to review 2-a-week trash. We've talked about 2-a-week trash before. I have talked to Director Uhas and Public Works Director Hummertz about 2-week trash, and I want to refer that to the committee so you guys can talk to them and look at the finances associated with it to determine if this is where we want to go. And then the third one is a referral to the Economic Development Committee for coastal management / coastal resiliency. And let me, for those of you in the audience that have not heard this before, and for the counselors that have not heard me talk about this before, is that there's information out there that in the next 30 to 40 years that sea level is going to rise over 2 feet along the coast, period. And since we have, if you look at the map of the city of Groton, we have more coast than not. That includes Baker Cove, and it also includes the Thames River and the Long Island Sound. So part of this is about coastal management. Part of this is about the coastal resiliency, meaning looking at how does it impact the residents, but also how does it impact infrastructure. How does it impact roads? How does it impact water, sewer? We have a pump station down at Eastern Point. We have a pump station down by where the Elks is. And that pump station actually is probably lower than the one at Eastern Point. What do you think? And we have one in Colonial Manor that is just on this side of Birch Plain Creek, which would also be, since Birch Plain Creek is tidal, it would also be impacted. So some people would say, what are you thinking? Why are you doing this 30 years out? Because municipalities tend to move slowly, and 30 years is actually quick. And so that's why I think we need to start looking at it. It's not anything reactionary right now. We're not getting ready to go build things 2 feet higher. We need to look at the projected impact and start thinking ahead of the game where we're going to go with this. The reason I went with economic development is because part of this is within areas that we build, and there's potential impact. There is overlap with the Public Works Committee because of some of the infrastructure, but I initially wanted to go with EDC. Okay. All right. New business, Councilor Rush.
Thank you. Resolution R-18-8-95. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council authorize management to issue a purchase order to Traver IDC 151 to 165 Homer Street, Waterbury, Connecticut, for the overhaul and reinstallation of the primary affluent pump at the City of Groton Pollution Abatement Facility in the amount not to exceed $20,000 and no cents, to be paid from funds available in the approved fiscal year 2018 capital reserve funds. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We have Chief Plant Operator Sini here. If you have any questions regarding this pump, he can talk directly to that. Councilor Rusk.
Can we just address the fact that we are funding things for the pollution abatement facility after we've moved that? The fact that it was in an earlier resolution?
Okay. Yep. Let me clarify that. You're right. The pollution abatement facility has been moved to the utility, but this is funds that were approved by this council when the pollution abatement facility fell under when this council was the WPCA. And since the pump did not get fixed then, that's why this council is approved. Very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just, Mayor, if you could just remind me, this was the one where I think somebody was trying to remove it before, right?
Kevin, would you mind coming to the podium and addressing this with the mic? You may have to turn the mic on. The question is, we were briefed 2 weeks ago about that we had originally had somebody to take it out. They took it out and they were unable to repair it. So if you could kind of walk us through.
Real quickly, so these are the 3 pumps that pump essentially all the flow from the plant up to secondary treatment. In fact, Councilor Rusk was the last one that we rebuilt systematically. We rebuilt all 3 of them. And she was actually on her tour beginning as a council, and we were fixing number 1 at that time because I ran it for you so you could hear it. So we did, we had done a bidding process on 1 and 3, and then when we went to do 2, we had another company come in that we had never dealt with prior. So, we thought we were doing the right thing. They were the lowest bidder, and came to you guys. You approved for them to do it. They, once they got it and they took it apart, they realized that it was beyond their realm of capabilities. They didn't have the machines to be able to machine the bearing. You're talking about a pump that was originally designed and built in the late 60s, early 70s, because it went online in 72. So they didn't have the capability. So they called me up. They said, we're not going to be able to take care of this. So Traver Electric, who had done 1 and 3, was the next bidder. So we contacted them, and I think, kind of in a bond here, and we were able to get them to go and look at the pump and assure me that, yes, that one is essentially going to be able to be rebuilt. So that's the reason that we need to essentially just change the purchase order to Traver not to exceed 20, and they assured me that they'll be able to do it for that amount.
Councilor Rusk.
Are we paying the original company also?
Well,
so how much?
This dismantling part of it, yes,
Right.
we did have to pay them, but I actually, that didn't come out of, that came out of my regular O&M budget.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Sheffield?
Yes, Kevin. So there is a contract that we have signed off with Traver IDC. We already have a contract. Is that necessary?
This purchase order is what's going to be the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, we need your approval.
Anyone else? Any other discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, there's no executive session, so I will take a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.